This is Reporter Room with Jessica Della Davies.
Hello, guys. Come on in. Come on in. Today, we have breaking news in the Bryan Kohberger case. I apologize for not getting on camera today. I'm literally going through the information right up until the second that I went live. But we do have important breaking news information on Molly, the DoorDash driver. We have Bryan Kohberger's most recent traffic stop, WSU crime lab information, and those IDs that were found inside a glove, inside a box in Bryan Kohberger's Pennsylvania home. So let me go ahead when he was arrested at his parents' Albrightsville, Pennsylvania home. So let's go ahead and get started. Come on in. Tell me where you are from. We're going to just go through this line by line, item by item. And I want to start with because there is a lot of breaking news. You guys, I'm sorry, this is a pop-up live, but my name, for those of you that don't know, is Jessica Della Davies. I'm an investigative journalist. My job is to investigate crimes, crime scenes, and potential suspects, and share with you how to do the same thing. If you haven't subscribed to Reporter Room, it's free, and it helps me out a lot. I can't get to 50,000 subscribers without your help. Like, share, giving a thumbs up lets YouTube know I'm doing a great job. Subscribing lets YouTube know I'm doing a great job. Come on in, tell me where you're from. You can tell me what country, what state, what provenance, what city, whatever you, what planet, whatever you feel comfortable in sharing. Come on in, come on up and talk to me. So today we're going to be talking about the IDs that were found inside a glove, inside the box. In Bryan Kohberger's Albrightsville, Pennsylvania home. We're going to be talking about the WSU crime lab, the DoorDash driver, Molly, and Bryan Kohberger's August 21st traffic stop. So as you will recall, taken from, and my sourcing on this is the Idaho Statesman, taken from the home were dozens of items. This is according to the Pennsylvania search warrant record. And these items included several textbooks, and we know that one of the pages in one of the books was lined, several knives, a gun, notes from BK to his parents, and the IDs found inside a glove, inside a box. So let me go ahead and pull this up for you. Take this down. Okay. So Bill Thompson is the prosecutor in this case, and he is the one speaking out. And he talked a lot about different information, but this is my sourcing on this, and I'm going to just put up a image of Bryan Kohberger so people come by, they know what we're talking about, who we're talking about. Okay, so there were two IDs that were reportedly belonged to, this is according to the Idaho Statesman. These IDs were found inside a glove, inside a box, inside Bryan Kohberger's Albrightsville, Pennsylvania home. And these two ID cards belonged to two women who were former co-workers or acquaintances of Bryan Kohberger from several years ago. And prosecutor Bill Thompson told the Idaho Statesman that at least one of these women was from when he worked as a part-time security officer at the Pleasant Valley School District. That's kind of scary, the idea that they had him working as a security officer at a school in light of what he has pled guilty to doing. And he graduated from the district's high school, and his parents also worked at the district. So these IDs belong to colleagues that he worked with. And this takes me back to the reporting that I did. And let me pull this up. Let me share this one. Just grabbing it. Okay, so you will recall that I talked to you guys about this colleague where he broke into her house, right? He broke into his WSU colleague's house. And one of the sources, multiple outlets reported on this, I just wanted to show you the receipts on that, is News Nation. So he broke into her house. He shared an office with this colleague, and he reportedly, allegedly, took her key and used the key to enter her home. He moved a cake into her microwave and moved some things around enough to freak her out, and took some papers and a watch. So he stole from her too. And remember, he also broke into his neighbor's house when his best friend Jeremy was in jail, right? So he broke into this female colleague's apartment. She freaked out, and he was tending and befriending her. And she, of course, did not know that he was the one that broke in. And she shared an office with him at WSU, and she allowed him to install a home surveillance system, security cameras inside her house. He was able to get her Wi-Fi password, and then he used the Wi-Fi password to use the cameras to spy on her. So I think this is interesting in light of the information now that we're getting about these two IDs inside a glove, inside a box. So a lot of experts have suggested that this behavior aligns with a pattern of seeking power and domination over others, females in particular. And so this incident is considered separate from the 1122 King Road home, and it's also considered separate from an earlier reported home invasion in Pullman, Washington, where BK was initially investigated but later cleared as a person of interest due to conflicting descriptions and his location at the time. So this doesn't mean he didn't do it. This just means they couldn't for sure say he did do it. And it doesn't matter at this point. He's in jail with 4 consecutive life sentences and a burglary charge with another 10 years on top of that. But let's go back to the crime lab information, because you'll remember that Phil Weir swore up and down that there's no way Bryan Kohberger could have gotten access to this crime lab, you guys. So this is a crime lab that's located in the criminology department where Bryan Kohberger worked as a teaching assistant. Allegedly, so my source on this is the New York Post, that BK's PhD program at Washington State University had access to this crime lab database. Now, this included body cam videos and live streams from surveillance cameras. 5 different law enforcement agencies is what he had access to. And Moscow PD was not one of them. But they maintain it's called a complex social interaction CSI lab, and this provides graduate students, well, Bryan Kohberger was in the PhD program, with access to live streams and crime scene videos obtained by police agencies, according to the outlet. So he would have had access to their body cam footage. So what a great place for someone like Bryan Kohberger to hunt for the next victim. So a source who reportedly had direct knowledge of the program, so a whistleblower, said that the materials could have allowed an unauthorized person to view unredacted crime scene images and videos using controls that could zoom in on faces. So just imagine this. Bryan Kohberger was in a position at WSU, and they're denying it, of course, but I think the powers that be didn't want this to go to trial. But WSU, he had access to a crime lab with body cam footage where he could zoom in on people's faces and other camera footage. And, but they were like, oh, no, he couldn't have had access. I'm going to share more about that in just a second. But we know he had IDs belonging to other former colleagues. And I told you guys at the time I reported this story that I felt like it was very possible that he would have been able to get access using someone else's ID. And that I felt like WSU had a lot to lose by not sharing this information. But this is what the whistleblower said. He said, I don't think any amount of positive research that has come out of this department is worth the risks of letting a wolf in the hen house. He said they are all obsessed with crimes and criminals. You have to be a PhD in criminology, but sometimes that obsession goes to other levels and attracts a kind of madness. Well, in this case, it definitely did, right? So the idea that their teaching assistant, Bryan Kohberger, would not have had access to this lab at the time, I thought was ludicrous. I just wasn't buying it. I felt like WSU had a lot to cover up, in my opinion. But now finding out that he had IDs belonging to former coworkers in his inside a glove, inside a box at his parents' Albrightsville, Pennsylvania house tells me that he wasn't beyond stealing someone's ID to access it. So the WSU CSI crime lab entities are on the Pullman campus where Bryan Kohberger worked. The crime lab is on the same floor that he worked on. That's why I just found it ridiculous that this is a graduate student program. He's a teaching assistant and a graduate student there, but he wouldn't have access to the crime lab. So Phil Weiler is the one who spoke to Fox Digital. He said that he insisted that Bryan Kohberger never obtained entries to the programs. He said, to be clear, Bryan Kohberger had never had access to any footage from the complex social interaction lab at Washington State University. Access to the facility is strictly controlled. All research assistants must complete a background check and FBI criminal justice information level 2 certification. Now, I looked at this FBI criminal justice information certification level 2. This sounds really good, right? It almost sounds like it's a level 2 background check or something like that. But that's not what it really says. It just says a level 2 certification. So was this just a form that they had to fill out? I don't know. Let me know what you think. But they said they had to be fingerprinted by the FBI. This is what WSU was claiming. Now the whistleblower is going to tell us something different. And we're going to talk about DoorDash driver Molly next. We have new information on DoorDash driver Molly, and we have new information. And I'll do the car footage. I was going to do that tomorrow during our live, but we're going early today. Sorry, I'm not on camera, but I was like getting things together right up until the second I went live. So Phil Wheeler from WSU, and I told you guys that I felt like these universities had too much power, and that I believe that that's the real reason that this case did not go to trial. The University of Idaho was allowed to literally tear down the crime scene. And WSU, I believe, was tipped off on December 19th because the chief of police at Pullman, who said he was tipped off by Chief of Police Fry back in Moscow, Idaho. They were chief of police back in 2022. The chief of police in Pullman, Washington, the Pullman, Washington Police Department is now the chief of police. Guess where? WSU. Of course he is. And he had gotten tipped off by Chief Fry. So you think he didn't tell WSU? And this is why Bryan Kohberger is conveniently let go on December 19th, the same exact day that Bill Thompson has told us that law enforcement identified Bryan Kohberger as a suspect. So this is why I think this case couldn't go to trial, in my opinion. Let me know if you have a different, let's put a poll. Let's do a poll. If you think this is the real reason the case didn't go to trial because of the power of the universities in these college towns, put a 1 in a chat. If you think the case didn't go to trial because Bill Thompson suddenly just on his own had a change of heart and didn't want to take the case to trial after 2.5 years, put a 2 in the chat. Let me know what you think. So, Phil Wheeler, who's the WSU spokesman, oh no, he could never have access to this. And now we're finding out that Bryan Kohberger had IDs from other jobs that he worked on. And I told you at the time that I knew he had broken into this young woman's house at WSU. So how do we know he didn't have access to this lab? How does Phil know? How is he so sure? Or is this just more CYA on WSU's part? Because let's face it, had they done basic date checks of when Bryan Kohberger claimed he worked as a fish fillet guy or as a butcher at a butcher shop, if they had done just basic date checks, did he work from this day to this day, they would have known this guy had integrity issues and had lied on his resume. So in an email to the New York Post, Phil Wheeler also said that the quote anonymous source, this is the whistleblower, who made that claim clearly does not have first-hand knowledge of the program referenced and does not understand how the video footage in question is protected. So the whistleblower didn't have first-hand knowledge. How does he know who the whistleblower was? He doesn't know, because the whistleblower was never named in any of the articles. So, and then the source claimed to Fox News as the whistleblower to have direct knowledge of, quote, multiple individuals who have not gone through vetting or training to enter the facility and work as part of their duties, including our technical support staff. So how hard would it have been for Bryan Kohberger, a teaching assistant, if he didn't have an ID, if he didn't have access to this lab, which is what Phil is claiming? I don't know if I even buy that much, but if he didn't, how hard would it have been for him to swipe someone else's ID and get access? Not very hard. I mean, now we know he had IDs that belong to other people. So the police in nearby Moscow, they wanted to make sure that everybody knew that the agency does not share their body cam video or live stream with any researchers at WSU. So meanwhile, the insider, this is the whistleblower, also expressed concerns with the advanced study of crime in academia. He said, I've always been skeptical of the research this department has done, especially the folks that don't go on to solve real world crime in law enforcement, but stick around in academia and live and breathe this stuff on taxpayers' dollars. He also said, and what does it really amount to? Basically just neutering police more and more every day. It's just sickening after all of this. So this guy is genuinely disturbed by the fact that Bryan Kohberger, who worked on the same floor as this WSU CSI lab with access to cameras from including body cameras that were worn by police officers, including cameras on the street, traffic cameras, that, you know, he's trying to sound the alarm. But Phil Wheeler, he said that the CCTV internship program jointly operated by the city of Pullman and the Washington State University ended in the spring. So you know what, guys, nothing to see here, but that's not the same as the crime lab. The crime lab is still open and going. So I think that it was somewhat disingenuous, in my opinion, on this whole thing. But let me know if you have a different take on it. And so let's go through this, and we're going to talk more about this. But this is really creepy, you guys. Look at this. I mean, whew, just even the photo is kind of creepy. So I just want to keep going through this. I want to talk about DoorDash driver Molly next, and then we're going to go through the traffic cam. I also want to talk about the K-bar knife at trial. So DoorDash driver Molly, police interviewed her during the investigation. We saw her. We managed to get information on Molly, and so she had brought an order to Xana right around 4 a.m. on November 13th of 2022, just minutes before BK entered the house. And in an unrelated traffic stop, which I showed you a clip of back in September of 2024, she told the Pullman police that she expected to testify. And she said, quote, she believed that she, quote, saw Bryan and had, quote, parked right next to him. Well, now we're hearing from Bill Thompson, and my sourcing on this is the Idaho Statesman. He did confirm her identification and said that prosecutors did intend to call Molly as a witness had there been a trial, but only to help establish the timeline of the crimes. Based on the neighborhood video's surveillance footage, he did not believe that Molly had actually come across BK or his car, he said. Instead, he believes that she saw a light-colored SUV. And Officer Brett Payne also wrote in a redacted but now public police report after he interviewed the driver following the homicides. He said the vehicle and the person she saw that she thought might be I'm just going to say Schiller with a K, is not Mr. Kohberger. So this is from Officer Brett Payne's. That was a different vehicle, a different person, a slightly different time from what the investigators were able to see from the security footage. So I I did share with you that I believe that law enforcement would have definitely been able to tell. They would have definitely checked where Molly was. So it sounds like Molly, saw somebody, but not who she thought she saw. I believe she truly thought she saw Bryan Kohberger, but she did not, according to Bill Thompson. They said it's not possible from the security footage. So that's another mystery solved. Now we're going to talk about Dylan, and was this a cartel house? Because that got cleared up today as well. And then we're going to go through this traffic cam stop of Bryan Kohberger. We're going to look at it. I have some information I want to share with you while we're looking at it. So Dylan is the only person. She's the only eyewitness to see Bryan Kohberger that morning. She told law enforcement that she opened the door and she saw a man dressed all in black, wearing a balaclava-like mask over his nose and mouth. He was 5'10" or taller. He was athletic, but not muscular, with bushy eyebrows. He walked toward the second floor, sliding doors, carrying a, quote, container of some kind. Now, Idaho statesman did ask Bill Thompson about this container, and he said that investigators still don't know what BK had in his hands, but that Dylan's recollection of the events were consistent over multiple interviews. Bill Thompson said that she reported that a man in the home, who was later identified as BK, and he said, from what Dylan described, I have a hard time imagining that the perpetrator did not see Dylan. This is from Bill Thompson. He said, at that point, he had been in the house probably longer than he had planned. He had done away with people, I'm watching my words, more than people that he had planned. It wouldn't surprise us that the perpetrator, was scared at that point and decided to leave, not knowing if law enforcement had been called or not. So that was also a theory that we had here on this channel too. Let's check, and we're going to talk about the K-bar knife next. And then let's go through this camera. But I want to go, I'm looking for 1s and 2s from our poll. There we go. So come on in. Tell me where you are from. If you're watching, come on up and talk to me. Log onto your phone and hop on up. Thank you for modding today. This is our head mod, Njaz. And I can't believe you made it, Njaz, because I went live with almost no warning at all. Thank you for modding today, Donna. So I'm so glad a couple of you guys saw this. All right, so we're going to quickly go through this poll, and then I want to dig into this traffic stop. I'm going to move myself out of the way. I want to thank Njaz. Wow, she just gifted 5 reporter room memberships. If you got one of those, please make sure you say thank you to Njaz, and thank you, Njaz. And Las Vegas is here. All right, so thank you for modding, and Mike is here. Okay, good. So I'm just so glad we have mods here. I was worried I was going to be live without mods. So one, Susan's modding. Thank you, Susan. 1, Jet said it can make your name highlight. Kathy says 1. Good morning. Hound Lover says 1. Jet says 1. All right, so I see a lot of 1s. Donna thinks it's a 1. So I don't see any 2s. So I think that's really interesting too. All right, so let's keep going with this. Jules said he had everything to feed his beast. He just had to excel at what his 6th fantasy was. Yeah. Let me move myself out of the way. All right, so we're going to watch this together. And then we're going to talk about the K-bar knife. And we're going to talk about Bryan Kohberger's sister and his mother and his father next. But let's do let's go through this together, because this is very interesting. And this was the traffic stop we weren't allowed to see. And I'm just going to start by saying, if you look at this image of him, he does look like a ghoul. He just does. He's just creepy.
Hey there. I stopped you going a little fast. You realize this is 35?
It's 35?
It is.
I just want to make sure. I want to do a sound check. Can you guys hear me? Just a quick yes or no. Can you hear that? I don't want to play the whole thing and then find out you guys couldn't hear it. Thank you, Faraday. Can you guys hear that, you guys? And Jazz, can you hear the footage before I play the whole thing?
Yeah, so you go. 41. Yeah, 43 is what the radar said.
Can you guys hear that? Okay, great. Okay, and Jazz can hear. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Misty, Cynthia, Sherry, Susan Handlover, and thank you so much. Okay, brilliant, brilliant. It's good. Okay, thank you, Mike. All right, much appreciated. All right, let me back this up and let's watch this. I'm gonna. It's not long. It's just a 2 minutes and 49 seconds. But I want to just start by saying he looks very ghoulish. I know it's the lighting and it's dark, and this is the body cam. So this was the August 21st, and it's really close to the 1122 King Road home. This is why the prosecution tried to get this in originally, back when this case was in Latah County before Judge John Judge, and Judge John Judge refused to allow this footage to be entered in as evidence of the fact that he was near the 1122 King Road home. So when Ann Taylor successfully was able to move the entire trial from Latah County to Ada County, and we got our new judge, Judge Hip, as we like to call him here on this channel, he agreed to let this footage in for the purpose of just identifying that Bryan Kohberger did indeed drive a white Hyundai Elantra. But just so you know, this was taken very close to the 1122 King Road home, where Bryan Kohberger enjoyed going sightseeing. He loved stargazing in Moscow, Idaho, all the way up until November 13th of 2022. And after that date, he never stargazed in Moscow, Idaho ever again. Just thought that was interesting too. But I digress. Let's go.
Hey there. I stopped you going a little fast. You didn't realize this is 35?
So it's 35?
It is. Yeah, so you're going.
41?
Yeah, 43 is what the radar said.
Sure.
Oh, yeah. Do you have your license, the registration, insurance? Were you wearing your seatbelt when I stopped you? No. That's no good.
Just being honest with you.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
You guys are, there's absolutely no point in not being honest.
Yeah.
You got the radar.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Do you have a vehicle registration slip or something like that? Okay.
But I give you my insurance.
Yeah, this is your insurance. That's good. Thing is, I'm on a overtime shift right now. One of the conditions is we have to enforce seatbelt laws, and so to write you a citation for that, it's $10 in Idaho. Not a huge deal, but yeah. Be right back. All right, sir. Here's your license back.
So one of the first things I noticed is Bryan Kohberger, he just looks ghoulish in this. Here he is at night, and we know that that phone pinged near the 1122 King Road home 23 times, according to the FBI, in the days and weeks leading up to the November 13th crime, which the final phone ping near the 1122 King Road home was on November 13th, just after 9 a.m. in the morning, when he went back to the crime scene to either look for his knife sheath, which is possible, or he went back to Looky-Loo to see if law enforcement was there and to enjoy the mayhem that he had just created. But you can see in this how ghoulish he actually looks in this. He just looks creepy. And I think that this video, I can see why Ann Taylor would not have wanted the jury to see this. He really does look like a ghoul here. And I've told you guys, I always felt like he had a very predatory look. His mouth is very tense. His eyes are always darting around. And we're going to, so let's.
Radar said. Oh, yeah. Do you have your license, the registration, insurance? Were you wearing your seatbelt when I stopped you? No. That's no good.
Just being honest with you.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
You guys are, there's absolutely no point in not being honest.
Yeah.
You got the radar.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Do you have a vehicle registration slip or something like that? Okay.
But I give you my insurance.
Yeah, this is your insurance. That's good. Thing is, I'm on a overtime shift right now. One of the conditions is we have to enforce seatbelt laws, and so to write you a citation for that, it's $10 in Idaho. Not a huge deal, but yeah. Be right back. All right, sir. Here's your license back. It's here. Just an infraction citation. The only thing you're alleging failure to wear your your seatbelt on the traffic stop. They said the fine at that's $10. You do have the right to a hearing on this if you'd like one. If you'd like hearing, you need to request it before September 8th at 8:30. Otherwise, they'll automatically be entered against you. You'll lose the right to the hearing. You just wanted to pay it. The mailing address there, website right there.
Yeah, I just have a question about that. So in terms of like, when you get a speeding ticket, that's obviously reported to your insurance. Is that the same thing for the seatbelt?
I don't think so. I think it's only moving violations that go to insurance, or things that might put points on your license.
Yeah.
But I'm not 100% sure. Okay. Could I get a phone number from you?
Yeah, why?
We need to put it on the citation as it goes.
So the last thing Bryan Kohberger wants to do is to give his phone number to law enforcement. He's near this crime scene, and it does make me. This was on August the 21st, excuse me, and we know that he did away with Kaylee, Maddie, Ethan, and Xana on November the 13th. So he was thinking about it already. He had already purchased the K-bar knife. He had already bought the balaclava mask. And so he was already had in his mind that he was going to be doing something to someone, because that K-bar knife is not something you use for hunting or camping. That K-bar knife is a military knife. It's used for humans. So he already had in his mind what he was planning to do here on August 21st. So he does not want to give this police officer his phone number. So he's nodding along, but he's also kind of being nasty at the same time. And we've heard this from people that said that he had kind of a superiority complex. He always had to ask a lot of questions. He had to know better than everybody else. And my point is going to be made in just a second. So let's watch this together.
To the court.
Yeah. Just for future reference, I mean, I'm obviously an honest person, right? I told you I wasn't wearing my safety belt. When people lie to you about that, say I lied to you about that, right? Just for my own knowledge.
So he's posing this as a question. Say I had told you I was wearing my seatbelt. What if I had just lied to you about that? So kind of arguing. He's nodding along. He's acting like he's cooperating, but you can hear that he's kind of feeling superior. What if I had just lied to you about that? Instead of just taking the $10 ticket.
Honestly, go back and look at that, or you just
With a seatbelt like this, I didn't check as I was coming up, so that's why I asked you.
Usually?
I should. I noticed you weren't wearing it, and I'm on this emphasis. And like I said, I'm getting paid by ICD, and they want us to enforce the seatbelt law. So I was being more aware of that.
So he wants to know, what if I had just lied to you about that? And he's nodding along, but he's kind of being superior and kind of, there's like a passive aggressive there. He's not going to be really aggressive. One, this is a male police officer. He was a lot more argumentative, in my opinion, with the female campus police officer at WSU when he got the ticket than he is with this male, but he's still being passive aggressive. And this is why Ann Taylor did not want the jury to see this, in my opinion.
That's where I'm coming from. Okay. All right. Have a good night.
And I think also he just looks like what he is. He looks like the ghoul that he is. And we can say that now because he's pled guilty. And we know now what he did to Kaylee and Maddie and Xana and Ethan when he said, "It's okay. I'm here to help you." And then he went into the house and he did what he did. So this was the body cam footage we were not able to see, and now we're able to finally see that. So I want to talk about the K-bar knife because Bill Thompson talked about this as well, and I also want to talk about the medication thing on the house. So there's been a lot of talk. The toxicology came back from the victims. They did a toxicology, and the victims were all impaired. They all had alcohol in their system. But guess what they did not have in their system, you guys? There was no illicit medications in their system, not a single one. So all of this talk that has been spread around that this was a cartel, that there were tunnels under the house, that there was this was medication related. That's the real reason Bryan Kohberger was there. This is just nonsense. They didn't have any illicit substances in their system. All they had was alcohol in their system. So I hope that can put that to rest as well. So that is what that the source on that is Bill Thompson. Now, K-bar knife at trial. Bill Thompson also said that the prosecution intended, we're going to talk about Bryan Kohberger's family here, intended to call BK's immediate family. The defense won a ruling from the judge to allow his parents and 2 older sisters to all 4 attend the entire trial if they chose to. And Prosecutor Thompson and his team considered calling Bryan Kohberger's older sister, Amanda, and then either his mother or his father to the stand. And Bryan Kohberger's mother and sister both were present for the sentencing. But interestingly, Bryan Kohberger's father, Michael Kohberger, was not there. And I'm wondering if that is because he got called out by Steve Gonsalves when Steve Gonsalves said, we know when you bought those plane tickets for that pre-planned trip. And so he got called out by Steve Gonsalves for the flight. And I'm wondering if he was worried that that Steve Gonsalves was going to call him out again. But Bill Thompson says that in the end, had Bryan Kohberger's trial moved forward, that prosecutors were probably not going to call any of the family members. He said as they continue to review them as potential witnesses, this is from Bill Thompson, prosecutor, he said that they decided that they simply weren't the best witnesses to show what was going on. The parents were understandably protective of their son. So I thought that was really interesting too. Kind of sad that I understand being protective of your son, but if you knew that your son did something like this, I don't know how protective I would be. And I want to also talk about what happened to Ethan and share a clip from Dr. Mercado and what he says on this. Let me pull that up next. Okay, so we're going to watch this together too. Let me take this down. All right. So I just want to do a sound check really quick, make sure you guys can hear it before I get started. And I'm not sure why. Oh, here we go. I'm like looking for the mute button. Okay, let's try this again.
Comparison to other men and, having to do with rejection and inadequacy related.
Okay, can you guys hear that before I just play the whole clip? I just want to make sure that you guys can hear Dr. Mercado now that I played the little bit of it. Yes? Okay, Donna says she can hear. Okay, I just didn't want to play the whole thing and then find out you guys couldn't hear it. Mike says he was being a stalker. Yeah. Even though they couldn't find evidence of him. Thank you, Sherry. Thank you, Njaz. Thank you, Donna. Thank you, Cynthia. All right, much appreciated. You guys are awesome. All right. Thank you, Lori. And Mariska says she can hear. Blessing says she can hear. And Jazz tells me she can hear. Thank you so much. And Colo says, I hope not. You're probably right. Oh, he's talking to DM. All right. So this is Dr. Mercado. And he's talking about Bryan Kohberger and women. Let me just see if I can refresh just to get it back to the beginning.
And we understand that he makes some cuts in the legs of Ethan. Is very interesting to me as someone with expertise in certain types of offenders, because I think that the idea that a male unexpectedly had inserted himself into this probably sexualized fantasy was a bit much for him. And then I think we see this kind of experimentation on the male victim that gets into the bizarre, this meaningless, totally unnecessary cutting of the legs. That tells you again that this has something to do with this sense of inadequacy in comparison to other men and, having to do with rejection and inadequacy related to women. That moment where he sits and we understand that he makes some cuts in the legs of Ethan is very interesting to me as someone with expertise in certain types of.
So I thought that that was really helpful too, to just understand. I don't want to sensationalize it too much, but I do think Dr. Percato is right. And I think that Bryan Kohberger, we don't know why. Nobody's told us specifically why, but I do think we do have a good sense of why. And the why is that Bryan Kohberger um, absolutely felt inadequate to other men. And so encountering Ethan in the room with Xana, and Ethan had a female uh, girlfriend, had a girlfriend, and Bryan Kohberger couldn't get a girlfriend. I don't know if he even really wanted a girlfriend, because we've heard that the WSU colleague, in the interview I did with Howard Blum, he said that she did have some interest in Bryan Kohberger. So he didn't want a woman that actually wanted him. That's my feeling about it. He wanted a woman that probably that you know that didn't want him. So we don't know exactly why he did this. We don't know with 100% certainty that his target was Maddie, but we do know that he did make a beeline up to the third floor, that he went there first when he got into the house. And I say beeline because he went, he did this very fast. We also learned from the interview from the Idaho statesman that there could have been a second weapon involved. So maybe we were all looking at the blisters on his thumbs up photo and wondering which hand was he holding the knife in. But maybe what Dylan saw, that object that she saw, and the other hand was a billy club or something like that. So I want to talk about how ridiculous it is to dismiss circumstantial evidence, and just some of the interesting things that we've all come across, I think. And this I got out of one of the Facebook groups. I won't say who shared it, because I don't want to take away somebody's privacy, but this is what this person posted. They posted, "Want to see how ridiculous it looks to ignore and dismiss circumstantial evidence." And remember, the majority of cases like this are circumstantial. It's very rare to have a videotape or an eyewitness of an SK actually doing away with somebody. But the post says he changed his license plates shortly after the crimes, and then the responses she got for people who were saying that he didn't do it. So what? Just because someone changes their plates doesn't mean they're guilty. She put number 2. He went back to the scene 5 hours later. And then she said she would get a response back from somebody who said, so what? Just because somebody goes back to the scene and changes their plates doesn't mean they're guilty. And then she's put number 3. He wiped his electronics and used a VPN so he couldn't be tracked. And what little they did find, his interest in watching porn related to being passed out, non-consensual basically, and his interest in Ted Bundy. He used police scanners, and he searched out the words, can psychopaths behave pro-socially? And then she said she would get a response from people who were insisting he didn't do it. So what? Just because someone's electronics back to the scene and changes their plates doesn't mean they're guilty. So she said, then 4, she said he wrote a how-to essay on how to on a stabbing victim, did research on a Reddit survey with criminals about criminal acts and behaviors that read as blueprints to committing the crime. And she said the response she would get back would be, so what? Just because someone's thesis, survey, electronics back to the scene and changes their plates doesn't mean they're guilty. Number 5, she put, he made disturbing online posts about visual snow, fighting his demons, depression, disordered psychopath, detached personality. And I'm assuming she's referring back to the Tapatalk sack of meat here. She said, IRL, disturbing patterns of tricking a friend into driving him, breaking into his colleague's apartment, breaking into his neighbor's apartment, breaking into his WSU colleague's apartment and using her cameras to allegedly spy on her. Tricking other colleagues at WSU into doing his work for them, and then pleading with a colleague to support him so he wouldn't get fired. Following female students to their cars, making women uncomfortable in class, grading females differently than males, mansplaining, and just overall misogyny. And the person wrote the response they would get back is, so what? Just because disturbing patterns, thesis, the survey, his electronic devices, searches, the back to the crime scene, and changing the plates doesn't mean he's guilty. Number 6, she said he made late night covert recon stalking missions to the house 23 times per cell phone tower and GPS phone data. He never went back to the house again after November 13th of 2022. She said the response she would get, so what? Just because stalking missions, disturbing patterns, thesis, survey, electronics back to the crime scene, and changing plates doesn't mean he's guilty. Number 7, she said she would say he meticulously cleaned his Hyundai Elantra inside and out and was seen separating his trash from his parents' trash, placing his trash into Ziploc baggies and wearing gloves, and then walking them over to the neighbor's trash bin. And she said the response she would get back is, so what? Just because he meticulously cleans and separates out his trash, wears gloves inside the house, has stalking missions, has disturbing patterns of what he likes to watch for his corn, his thesis and survey that he posted on Reddit, his how-to essay, his electronics being searches, and then the other stuff all being scrubbed. The fact that he went back to the crime scene the morning of the crimes and changed his license plates doesn't mean that he's guilty. Number 8, she put, he took a creepy thumbs up trophy picture 5 hours later to memorialize what he did. She said she would hear back, so what? Just because his creepy picture meticulously cleans and separates his garbage, wears gloves inside the house, conducts reconnaissance missions to the 1122 King Road home, has disturbing patterns of what he likes to watch, had a how-to essay on how to do this, his electronic devices and his searches on Ted Bundy, back to the crime scene the morning of the crime, and changes license plates. These don't mean that he's guilty. Number 9, she said 2 witnesses saw him. Dylan saw his bushy eyebrows, height, weight, complexion, the balaclava. And now we know, she said DoorDash driver, but now we know from the breaking news today that what DoorDash driver did see somebody she thought was Bryan, but it wasn't actually Bryan. So 1 witness, but this is what she wrote. And then she said she would hear back, so what? Just because witnesses saw him, just because he had a creepy picture online, just because he meticulously cleaned his Hyundai Elantra, just because he separated his trash from his parents' trash and placed his trash in separate trash bins, just because he wore gloves inside the house, just because he conducted reconnaissance missions, just because he has disturbing behavior patterns with women in the classroom, just because he had a how-to thesis on how to conduct a crime like this, and just because he changes his plates, and just because he returned back to the crime scene on November 13th, just after 9 a.m., doesn't mean he's guilty. Number 10, she says law enforcement found receipts for the balaclava mask, the Dickies coverall, the Amazon knife, the Amazon knife sheath, and a knife sharpener. They also saw him search for another knife and another K-bar knife and knife sheath just days after the November 13th crimes, and he tried to delete and scrub his Amazon search and purchase history. She said she would hear back, so what? Just because there are receipts for the balaclava mask, the Dickies coverall, the Amazon K-bar knife, the knife sheath, and the knife sharpener, creepy pictures, meticulously cleaning his vehicle, separating out his trash from his parents' trash, wearing gloves, and putting his trash in the neighbor's bins, just because he was conducting reconnaissance missions, disturbing patterns of behavior with women, his thesis and his how-to essay on a crime similar to this one, his electronics, and then back to the scene on November 13th at just after 9 a.m. and changing his plates on his car just 5 days after the crime doesn't mean that he's guilty. She said, number 11, he intentionally shut his phone off at 2:54 a.m. to go on a Mission Impossible style dark before 4:15 a.m. crimes. Then turn his phone back on shortly after 4:48 a.m. And she said she would get a response. So what? Just because his phone was switched off during the time of the crimes, that he has receipts for the law enforcement had receipts for the K-bar knife, the knife sheath, the knife sharpener, the balaclava mask, the dickies. Just because there were, Dylan saw a man with bushy eyebrows, just because there's a creepy picture with his thumbs up, just because he was meticulously cleaning his car, just because he separates out his trash from his parents' trash wearing gloves inside the house, just because he conducted stalking missions, disturbing patterns, thesis, survey, electronics, and went back to the crime scene on November 13th of 2022 and changed out his car license plate 5 days after the crime. This does not mean he's guilty. This is what they responded. Number 12, she said, he was seen on surveillance cams in Pullman just before he shut his phone off, and then seen again on numerous Moscow surveillance cams tracking his car as he circled the house like a shark from 3:30 a.m. until speeding away just after 4:20 a.m. And she said the response she would get from people who were just insisting that he didn't do it was, so what? Just because surveillance cameras caught him on camera before and after the crime scene and caught him circling the camera, just because he turned his phones off at the time of the crimes, just because law enforcement has receipts for the K-bar knife, the balaclava mask, and the dickies, and the knife sharpener and the knife sheath, just because there was an eyewitness that gave a description that exactly matched him, just because he has the creepy thumbs up picture, just because he was meticulously cleaning and separating his trash from his parents' trash wearing gloves inside the house, just because he conducted reconnaissance missions 23 times leading up to the crimes, according to the FBI, just because he had disturbing patterns of interacting with women, and just because he wrote a how-to essay, just because of the searches, the disturbing searches about what he was into on his electronics, and just because he drove back to the crime scene on November 13th, just after 9 a.m., and changed his license plates 5 days after the crime, this does not mean he's guilty. So you can see how this goes on and on. And I'm gonna leave it there. But she said, she just kept going with the stuff, and she said that, but basically what she felt like was the picture puzzle was Bryan and no one else. Holding up one piece of the puzzle and saying this isn't the picture is crazy. And she wrote that circumstantial evidence holds the same weight as direct evidence in a court, and that a jury would have been instructed on this fact for deliberation. So people that are claiming there is no evidence is, she used the word asinine. So, quote, so many unanswered questions outweighs all the guilt evidence. His DNA hit on the knife sheath found underneath and to the side of Maddie, the white Hyundai Elantra. Everything else was icing on the cake. And she said, she wrote, your first mistake was believing anything that the defense team claimed. I just thought that was really, really interesting and well done. And I just thought I would share that with you, because I do feel like there was this kind of a sense that no matter what information came out about this guy, that there was going to be somebody there just, well, he couldn't have done it. They just, and I think that even if we had a video of him doing it, I still think there are some people out there that will never believe that he could have done this. In my opinion, what do you guys think? Do you think that there is a small portion of people that no matter what evidence we have are going to say that he did not do this? If you think that's true, put true. If you think it's false, that there are that everybody is going to eventually be convinced that he did do this crime, put a false in the chat. I just curious what you guys think about this. Toss Penny said he basically stood up in court and told everyone it was his car. So Graham Medell thinks it's true. Misty says yes. Can I Kick It says unbelievable. People still think he's innocent. I told you guys asked me when he pled guilty, were there going to be some people that would just, what was going to happen to the people who kept saying that he didn't do it? And I said to you, well, the ones with integrity will come forward and they'll be open to the new information. The fact that he has pled guilty to 4 times to doing away with Kaylee and Maddie and Ethan and Xana, and pled guilty to burglarizing the house. And that people that some of the people that had integrity would come forward and they would be able to acknowledge the new information and simply say, we have new information, we believe it. And that's what most people would do, but that there would be a small percentage, just like what we saw in the Chris Watts case, where they kept going after Shanann's family, the Ruseks. And even after, Chris Watts had confessed, to the point where they had to sue a content creator, and they successfully sued him. And YouTube took the platform down because what he was doing was so egregious, encouraging all of his subscribers to go after the Ruseks. And we're seeing something similar play out in this case too. And I think it's going to end when it ends. But I think there are some people that no matter what you tell them, they're never going to admit that they got something wrong. And I'm not saying I got everything right. There's things I didn't get right, but I'm open to the new information. I'm definitely open to it. So true. Thank you so much for modding today, and Jazz and DM. True. All right. So lots of trues. I don't see false and just true. Thank you for modding today, Donna. True. Cool. People are nuts. Yeah. Lisa says, can the car belong to his mother? The Hyundai Elantra, my understanding was that was his car. Jethro says, Thompson made the deal because he would have never got 12 people to convict him. I disagree. I think he made the deal. This is my theory, but we don't all have to agree. So I'm not, we can have differing opinions. But this is my theory on why this was settled. I think that Howard Blum, who's a 2-time Pulitzer Prize nominated journalist, had it right. He told me when I interviewed him that there were the powers that be, and I believe he was talking about the University of Idaho and the WSU, did not want this case to go to trial. And these are small college towns. And if you remember the pictures that I showed you of where the Moscow Police Department sits right there next to the jail, next to where the court is, it's very small. And yeah, Ann Taylor messed up in one of her hearings and admitted it was his car. And I have that in my playlist too, if you want to look at that, where she says, not Brian's car, the other car. And I'm like, oh, there it is. She knows it's Brian's car. So, because it's hard for the brain to lie. But I do think that there are some people that no matter what happens, they're just never going to be able to say that he did it. Kate said, there are so many people that think he's innocent. And they are like still spreading it's a cartel and it's all a big cover up. I think there is a power dynamic with the universities. I agree that they have probably too much power. And I think that, Steve Gonzalez was so frustrated he wasn't going to give a victim's impact statement. And then he ultimately did decide to go ahead and do one. And I'm glad that he did. Because he was able to thank law enforcement. And I think law enforcement we were getting these leaks, the Dateline NBC, those leaks. I don't think that came from the prosecution or the defense. I think this came from frustrated law enforcement officers who just, watched the University of Idaho be allowed to tear down the entire crime scene. And then Ann Taylor called the model that Bill Thompson and the prosecution built a dollhouse and didn't want that to be admitted. So jurors could understand the weird layout of this house and how, where people were, because the house layout is strange. It looks like there was an addition of a second and third floor on the back of that house, which would have mean there was an exterior wall between the front of the house and the back of the house. And then the first floor where Bethany was, is completely away from where Kaylee and Maddie were. So I think knowing how the house is laid out is really, really important. Mike says, Jethro that it wasn't his car speeding away after the sheath. You can't. No, and we're gonna get to see. There's 12 hours of raw video footage of that Hyundai Elantra. We know that because Ann Taylor filed a motion saying she didn't have time to go through the 12 hours of video footage of the Hyundai Elantra. And by the way, could the judge just not allow the jury to see the footage? And the judge said, no. Sandra says too. Mariska says, I can't with these people thinking he's innocent. They think the earth is flat. I can see like initially giving him the presumption of innocence. I think that's like pretty normal. But where we got to was just kind of crazy. Donna says, if you slow down the video down, you can see no license plate on the front. Yeah. So that's the other thing. I didn't even like mention that in the list. And there's more she had on the list of evidence of the list I just read you. I just kind of stopped there. There was still like another 1/3 of stuff that she wrote. But, and again, credit to, I don't want to say her name because I didn't ask her, but I credit to the Idaho murders Facebook group, and she's in there and she posted in there. But yeah, you can see there's no license plate on the Hyundai Elantra. And then we heard the Hyundai Elantra was green. And then one of my channel members pointed out that Hyundai Elantra doesn't come in the color green. So then they said that it was wrapped. And then the next one after that. So we had the tunnels under the house. Then they tore the house down, no tunnels. The Hyundai Elantra is green. Then we said, well, there's no Hyundai. They didn't make a green Hyundai Elantra. Then the car was wrapped green. And then they changed the color, was actually a different color. It was, I don't know, some other color, Hyundai Elantra, because they, realized, oops, I can't get away with that. Kathy said, not only do they think he's innocent, they're sending him money. Yeah, and I think there's always going to be people doing that. Robin said, a case like this is going to attract a contingent of folks with their own mental issues. Space Junkie said, I just heard that. Did the car belong to his mom? I mean, I don't know. It was his car. I mean, he had it. His mom wasn't in Pullman, Washington. So I don't know. It's possible that it could have been titled in her name at some point. But I haven't found that from any official sources, so I don't feel comfortable sharing that. But if I find out anything on it, I'll definitely bring it to you. Holoa, I hope I'm saying your name right, says, I mean, look at him. How can you think he's not guilty? He confessed. Hello, McFly. Yeah, Jose saying he confessed. Yeah, he confessed. I don't know what else you want. He's confessed and he signed a confession. That's it. Yeah, Donna's like asking people, please be respectful in chat. And you guys, you can time out somebody if they're being disruptive. Just time them out. DM said there's a lot of people who lack integrity. Yeah, apparently. Lori said that's crazy. Cynthia said he'll get some female attention now. He's a prison bride. And Mike says, oh, okay. They said that they're blocking anyone with opposing views on their channel. Oh, dear. Well, it's hard to accept new information. And, it's almost like a little bit of a Stockholm syndrome, the way that we process information. It is really hard. Once you believe something's true, it's really hard to get off that. And we all struggle with that as human beings. People ever said a lot of people identify with him, which is terrifying how many future BKs are out there. Yeah. I would have thought that what he liked to Google and what he liked to watch with passed out and medicated and those kind of things would put people off. But no, I was told by one person that was normal. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I want to thank Dawn Marie for being a channel member for a month. Wow. Thank you so much, Dawn Marie. And I want to welcome Misty Dawn as a brand new Reporter Room channel member. Welcome. And so we're not done, but I do want to, before we get all the way to the end, I do want to thank our producers. Hold on. I messed up. Let me do that one more time. I want to thank our producers, Enja, Sasha Angel, George Brown, Christy Ballantyne, Michael L. Cole, and Lynn Jen 2. And thank our channel members. Thank you so much for your support. If you would like your name to appear just like this, just hit the join button. It's next to the subscribe button. Subscribing helps me out a lot, though, too. It lets YouTube know that I'm bringing you guys quality information, credibly sourced information, that I'm doing a good job. And it lets me know that you want me to continue covering this case. Of course, we are covering other cases. I did an update on Lily and Jack day before yesterday, the two little ones missing from Nova Scotia, Canada. And I also did a Chris Watts live stream as well. And so this live stream that we're doing right now, I was going to do it tomorrow, but with all of the breaking news, I was like, well, heck, let's just do it now. There's so much stuff to go into. And I'll do the super thanks from last week's live stream. I'll do that during the next one. I'm not doing it today. I'll combine it with today's because I went live so fast. I just didn't have time to get through everything. But I do want to just take this opportunity to kind of chit chat with you guys a little bit. Las Vegas Girl is asking everybody, please hit the thumbs up button to support the channel. Jessica, thank you so much. That's amazing work. Thank you so much. And there's Michael Cole, who's our other head mod. Wow, thank you so much for the $1.99 super sticker. Thank you so much. And just so you guys know, I did get a new camera. I was working on getting that set up. And moving all of my data is moving from the computer I'm on right now to the new computer. So our next live stream, I will be on it. I will be on camera. But for this one, I'm not on camera because I was either go live or wait until I went and put makeup on. And I just decided I would go live. Carla thinks it's true. Las Vegas Girl says, welcome to the family, Misty Dawn. Oh my gosh, Jody's having a birthday. Happy birthday, Jody. Wow, that's wonderful. Happy birthday to you. That's fantastic. I hope it's a wonderful day. Dawn Marie says, remember to like, share with your friends who love true crime. Let's get Jessica's name out there. She's the best investigator. On YouTube. Thank you so much, Dawn Marie. And if you want to drop Jody a comment and wish her a happy birthday in the comment section below, that would be so nice too. You could just write happy birthday, Jody. And if it's your birthday and I'm live, please make sure to tell me. I will and so I will definitely shout it out. Like I said, it's crazy people think they can't be convicted if they're not on camera committing the crime. Yeah, some people do believe that. And I think even if we had him on camera doing the crime, I still think there would be people that would be shouting deep fake, it's a conspiracy. So I just think that there's going to be some people that no matter what, that's how it's going to be. Yeah, I went live unexpectedly with breaking news, Mike. So don't worry. I don't even worry about it. Carl said, I have followed the high profile cases since JFK. There have always been rats and roaches coming out of the woodwork with nutty conspiracy theories, never proven. These days, they make money off of it. Everybody's telling you happy birthday, Jody. How nice is that? We have the nicest group here on Facebook. Reporter Room Family is the best. We have such nice people. Thriller Reader says tinfoil hats who think everything is a conspiracy. Yeah, not everything is a conspiracy. I do think there is an element. I do think that Howard Blum was right, that there is an element of people that didn't want this case. He's talked about the fact that the Latah County Judge John Judge could have moved to Ada County with the case, and he opted not to. And instead he retired. Bill Thompson is now talking about retiring early. Chief Fry left the Moscow Police Department and took another job as a position. The Pullman, Washington police chief is now the police chief over at WSU. So he didn't retire, but it does seem like there are a lot of people. Mike says it's their thinking, it's their paranoid fantasies, critical thinking. Hey, Red Cloud. Yeah, if you ever welcome to my live stream. If you're late, back it up because we had breaking news. I just went through everything. Missy Dawn says normal. Yeah. And I want to thank Las Vegas Girl for being a channel member for 18 months. Wow. Thank you so much for being part of the Reporter Room family. And Patty, thank you so much for the $5 super sticker. Thank you so much. I am putting that toward the computer. I'm sorry, to the camera fund And I do have a better camera, and you guys will see me on it on the next live stream. Penny said, how about the abandonment? Oh, yeah, I saw that on Facebook. That's really, really sad. So I'm just going to look really quick and see if there's anything new on the Bryan Kohberger case that like is breaking this morning. That because what it just seems like I think it's going to be like this for the next couple of weeks. Oh, this is really interesting. I thought this was just kind of wild. Let me just share this. Okay, so if you guys have seen, this is the Happy Face SK. Let me grab a sip of water. Okay, and he has a new friend. Bryan Kohberger has a new friend. I think he's going to have a lot of new friends. I think Olivia, who is the daughter of Steve and Christy Gonzalez, with her impact statement, said that she felt like Bryan Kohberger was going to, have a lot of new friends in jail. I'm paraphrasing, but this is really weird. This is Keith Jesperson. So he's known as the Happy Face SK. I'm just going to watch my words. And he told the, quote, lighter side of true crime, end quote, that he believes that BK's best bet is to transfer to the Oregon State Penitentiary, where he, Jesperson, is being held for life. BK is currently serving 4 life sentences at Idaho's maximum security prison. And he said the best bet is for BK to come to Oregon and spend his time here. This would be a great place for him to fall into. I don't know how BK would feel about knowing that he's being invited by this guy, but he believes that BK's crimes, his reported quirks, will make BK a target and maybe worse. He said, quote, he's going to have some problems, but don't get me wrong here. This is what he said about BK settling in Oregon. He said, but he's not going to be facing the hardships he would in Idaho. So it sounds like Jesperson knows he has it better in Oregon than he would have it in Idaho. And according to Keith Rover, he's the host of the Lighter Side of True Crime. He joined Ashley Banfield, and they talked about his interview with the Jesperson, and he said that while noting prison transfers can happen more than you think, he said that would be difficult for BK to be moved. He told News Nation he believes that Jesperson had already written a letter to the Idaho Supermax and will be writing a letter to Kohberger after doing the same with other notorious criminals, including Charles Manson and the Long Island SK Rex Hewerman. Now, BK is going to have a hard time in prison. This is what, according to Rover, for doing away with women in the fashion that he did. He said, quote, you can't stare down people. His stare is dead set straight on. Even during the impact statements, you can just see him dead on. That is going to be a problem. So for those of you that don't know who the Happy Face guy is, he was convicted of doing away with 8 women. So he earned his nickname by drawing happy faces on many of his letters to the media and authorities before being arrested in 1995. He claimed as many as 160 people while working as a trucker, but only 8 victims were confirmed. So he says he did away with 160 people. They've only been able to link him to 8. And he said that he committed his crimes in the 90s. And there is I think it's on Paramount Plus. There is a series on him. It might be Netflix, but I think it's Paramount Plus. And he is known to write various public figures. He sent notes to News Nation, Ashley Banfield, and artwork to News Nation, Ashley Banfield, and Laura Ingalls. So how would you like to be getting art and letters from this guy? I think I would be so uncomfortable. So BK was transferred from Ada County to Idaho's maximum security institution, and he will likely be held in a long-term restricted housing. And I did show you guys pictures of what that looked like. It's not very nice. Let me see if I can just show you. I have a video with like detailed pictures of the inside, but I'll just show you a couple of shots. So that's the outside. You can just see how high it is, and it's got the awful fencing, and then you can see what the cells look like. You can see it's a cement floor, so the noise is really going to echo. It's not going to be very quiet. It's not going to be like he was in the jail cell where it was, smaller. At Latah County Jail, I think they hold like a maximum of 25 to 30 people. So it was very small, very intimate. He was able to get all his vegan meals the way he wanted. But this is going to be a cell. It's going to be loud. You can see that there are like desk chairs bolted to the floor. This is where they can eat. He's going to be in shackles. Inmates spend 23 hours a day in their cells, and they have food and water fed through the doors in their cells. And this is the chairs that are in the middle of that room. And then if you look over here, you'll see the number 2, and you can see below that there's cages. So if somebody's determined to be a threat to other people, or maybe is in protective custody, they're not even allowed to sit in the bolted down chairs and table. They have to sit inside these cages. And they can sit in a bolted down. So if they are allowed out to eat, and most of their meals are fed through them through the slots in the doors, then they have to sit in the cages. So I expect that Bryan Kohberger probably would be in a cage at least for a while, because he would be considered protective custody. And this is what the cell looks like. You can see it's got a metal bed and a toilet. It doesn't look very nice at all. And this is, them. They do get some blankets, of course. And then this is the prison yard where he'll get to go out, maybe for 1 hour a day. Some people are saying it's every day. Some people say it's only 2 to 3 times a week. And maybe for protective custody, it depends what kind of custody you're in. It may only be a couple times a week. But this is where he'll get to go outside. He'll never get to stargaze again. And then this is what it looks like going into it. And then you can see the chain link fence with the sparked barbed wire at the top. So he will spend his life in solitary confinement. This is according to the owner of the Idaho bonding company. His name is Kevin Corson, about what Bryan Kohberger is probably going to face at this Supermax prison. He said he's going to be segregated. And as you know, people in prison don't like people who hurt women or little ones. I'm watching my words. He has hurt women. And that's something that the inmates there do not take lightly. It's something that is definitely going to put a target on his back. This is his latest mugshot. A lot of people wanted to know what these L's were. And Pablo Pasco, I don't know, Jumpsuit Pablo, I think is his name. YouTuber said that the L stands for large. There was a lot of speculation about what the L stood for. He said it stands for large. So that's his prison. And that is where he's going to spend the rest of his life. Let me check in with chat. Mariska said those cages are absolutely the worst I've ever seen, at least when it comes to Europe and America. Yeah, the standards in the United States are really different from the standards in the UK and in some of the other countries. Is there a window in the cell? No, there's not. Let me pull that back up. Let me put this back up so you guys can see. There's no window in the cell. You just have a box. So there's a window out to the front, so he'll be able to see into this area. You can see there's windows here. Let me make sure I'm not blocking. Oh, I'm not even showing you. Hold on. Sorry. Let's take this down. Put this up. Okay. So if you look right, let me move myself. Okay. If you look right over here, you can see those are the windows. And then these are the cells, and they do have windows, but they face inward. So the only sunlight he'll really get is this, or if he's let out into that yard. And that's where the shackles are stored. And it says here the inmates spend 23 hours a day inside their cells with food and water fed through their doors. So he'll be, there is like a little slot in the doors where they can pass food. It's right in here. You can see him right in there. And he would be able to maybe talk to the guy next door to him. Like if he was in 52, he might be able to talk to the guy in 53 through the little slot. But it's definitely not going to be like he had it in jail. That's for sure. And then this is the seats that are bolted to the ground. And so this is the only light. And then the rest are overheads. And then because he's in protective custody, he may, when he is let out, he may have to sit in a caged area for his own protection. It says some inmates may also get into the library or computer time. So you can see here, I don't think there's any windows. I don't see a window. And I've looked at other photos. I haven't found any with windows. And then this is the yard where he would get to go out. I don't know if he would go out with other people or just go out by himself because he's in protective custody, which may limit how often he can go out a day. And then that's the front. So that's his new house. So I thought the happy face was interesting too, that he's, he wants Bryan Kohberger to come stay with him. And if you haven't seen that, it's definitely worth watching. So thanks for your great questions today, guys. Mariska said those cages are absolutely the worst. Yeah, they are bad. And this particular prison, they went on a hunger strike. The prisoners did, because the conditions were so bad. They went on a hunger strike for 6 days, you guys. 6 days. Kathy says, was supposed to take 2 weeks or 14 days for him to go through the medical check-in. They did it in 7. Yeah, they probably were able to get through his stuff because he had been in custody for so long. Michael said, I'm not feeling too bad for BK. No, I don't think most people are. Does he have a TV? Not that I've heard. I heard he does get access to a laptop that can be passed through the slot, but that it doesn't have access to the internet. So he can call his mom from this laptop. And we had heard that from 2 other prisoners that said they just found him kind of annoying at the Latah County Jail, where he was staying with them, and said that he would be up all night pacing around and would take naps during the day. So his rhythm was off. Now he can give himself a thumbs up. Yeah. Will he be able to buy a TV? That's a great question. I don't know. Let me see what I can find out about that, Mike. Great question. Lori said, I don't believe he ever gazed at the star. Oh, no, I don't either. I'm being sarcastic when I say that. I just want to say I am being sarcastic when I say he was gazing. He's not going to be able to stargaze. He stopped gazing at the stars as soon as the crimes were over. That was one of the questions I wanted to know the answer to. Remember I talked about, as a juror, I would want to know whether all of this stargazing that Ann Taylor claimed he was doing on an ice fog night with the heavy cloud coverage, if this continued, and his love for long drives after the November 13th crimes. And we found out from Bill Thompson that no, it did not continue. It all ended on November 13th, which is just another piece in the puzzle that we talked about, all those pieces. Large loser. Yeah. Donna says, well, he made his bed. Now he can lie in it. Yeah, it's a metal bed. It doesn't look comfortable at all. All right, guys. Well, I think I'm going to leave it there. If you haven't subscribed, please do. It's free, and I can't get to 50,000 subscribers. I can't get to 50,000 subscribers without your help. Please give this a thumbs up on your way out. And please consider sharing this on your socials. Help by sharing it in your favorite Reddit true crime group, or maybe in your favorite Idaho case on Facebook. But if you could help me get this out, that would be so great. And like, share, and make sure you drop me any comments or questions, anything you want me to find out before the next live stream. Let me know. And I just do want to thank, I'm sorry, I almost missed this. Mariska says, I appreciate you and all of the mods. Yes, thank you to all of our mods so much. I kind of did this spur of the moment. And thank you, Mariska, for the $1.99 super sticker. And Las Vegas Girl said, love the Reporter Room family. And we really are a family here. It's a really nice group of people here in the true crime community here on YouTube. And we have a Facebook group too. If you type in Reporter Room and Bryan Kohberger, it should pop right up. And thank you, Las Vegas Girl, for the $4.99 super sticker. That is so nice of you. Thank you very, very much. Donna says, yeah, he could do Zoom calls. And Jazz agrees. So thank you to all of our awesome mods, our awesome channel members. And thank you to our head mod. Where is she? I see Michael. Thank you, head mod Michael. And head mod Njaz and DM modded today. If you modded, drop me a comment so I can just say thank you. Sassy T says thank you to Jessica and all the mods. Thank you for modding today, Las Vegas Girl and Donna and Kathleen. Kathy, thank you for modding. DM modded today. Misty says thanks, yeah, y'all. And Jazz is giving you the link to the Facebook group. Thank you for modding today. And Las Vegas Girl. Rockin' mods, thank you. Aw. Thank you, Donna. Thank you, Dave. Lainey, thank you so much. Thank you guys for caring so much about our mods. We really do have. And make sure you wish Jody a happy birthday if you haven't already. She is absolutely amazing. Thank you for modding today, Kathy and Donna. So Dave says, I won't. Oh, yeah. Yeah, don't do that. I don't want to have any drama with anybody. Thank you for modding today, Susan. Much appreciated. Nanya says, thank you and have a great day. All right, guys, I will see you on the next one. Thanks for watching. And tomorrow's live stream just will be moved probably to a different day because I went through all the information I was going to go through tomorrow in addition to the new breaking information that we went through. And if you got here late, back this up to the beginning. You'll want to watch it from the beginning.